right, so this is a homemade piece. A friend of ours brought this in. He's kind of a new woodworker, just getting started, and he was having trouble installing his drawer glides, and they can be tricky, so it's understandable. And if you take a look at the cabinet, pretty similar to what somebody who's kind of new to woodworking is. Not quite perfect, but it was a good attempt, and he should be proud of himself because at least he got started and he was able to get something done. So the couple of things we're going to have to work with, it's the carcass is not quite square, so we're going to have some issues there. But if you either built a piece yourself, or you could be dealing with a bathroom vanity or a kitchen cabinet that is old, you might run into the same kind of similar issues. It might not be square, it could be something that's built into the wall. These kinds of glides were not round a long time ago, so a lot of these cabinets weren't made to have these installed, so it can be difficult to get them to work in this type of cabinetry. All right, so what we're going to install today is a soft close ball bearing drawer slide. These are available at pretty much any big box store online. The one thing you want to pay attention to when you're buying your drawer slide is the length. So they'll come in all different lengths, and all you want to do is take a measurement of your cabinet from inside the face frame to the back of the cabinet. On this one, we're just over 20 inches. So we have a 20-inch drawer slide, so it'll fit perfectly. These will come all the way from like 10 inches up to 24 inches, depending on the size of your cabinet. So just make sure of that before you buy yours. Open these up. And one thing you want to pay attention to is they usually hide the screws inside the end here, so don't throw those away. Now, on this cabinet, the way this cabinet is constructed, it doesn't have an interior partition panel here. The difficult part of that is normally a drawer slide will mount up against the side of a cabinet and you'll be able to screw it in there. But because we don't have that, the way you get around that is by installing these drawer glide brackets. And what these do is the drawer glide will slide into the bracket, and then when you bring the slide in, it gives you a place to screw and support the back of this bracket. So when I'm doing drawer slides, what I like to do is start from the top drawer and work my way down. A lot of times what you can do is use a homemade spacer to space these brackets up. What you want to avoid is using your tape measure to try to measure these things from top to bottom. It gets difficult sometimes to try to get an exact measurement. So one easy way would be to cut a spacer block the height that you need to be, and then use that spacer to set this drawer glide on top of, and then that'll hold the drawer glide for you so that you could then screw it into the side of the cabinet. So since we don't have that interior partition on this side, we can't really use that spacer method. So what we do have is these drawer glide brackets. And what these do is they mount inside of your cabinet. You hold them up here. We're going to put a clamp on it. We're going to clamp it to our cabinet. And what that's going to do is allow us to support our drawer glide just like this, so that we're making sure that we're square off the top of the face frame, and it's going to position it for us, and it's going to hold it in place so then we can attach it with the screws. So we're going to slide on one of the brackets, put it in place. Now here we're going to find we're going to set the bracket just about a 1/16 of an inch past our face frame here, and then we're going to drive our first screw in. So that's in there, and then we're going to use this bracket back here start a couple screws in there. And you can see how handy this is, holding up the drawer slide for us, so we don't have to have like 3 hands holding it up there for us. I'm just going to put a couple of them in there loosely. I'm just going to eyeball to make sure this is kind of in the right position. We won't know for sure until we start getting the drawer box actually in there. Now we're going to add the top screws. So now we can take this support bracket off. We're going to move it to the other side. Clamp it on there. So we're going to mount this drawer slide into this side of the cabinet. Now these drawer brackets are designed to fit inside of a cabinet that has a 1/2 inch reveal on away from the edge of the wall. So this distance will set it a 1/2 inch away from that. But because the way this cabinet is made, it's not quite square, what we're going to do is trim this edge off, because we want to make sure that we can get this in the right position, and that may not be the case back there. We may be smaller than a 1/2 inch if this cabinet is tilted back. So all we're going to do is take a pair of scissors or snips or a knife, however you want to do this, and we're just going to trim the edge of this bracket. And we are losing a little bit of support, but we have 3 screws here, and that's going to be more than enough to hold this bracket up, especially since we have a solid connection here in the front. So we'll slide this back on, put this back in here. And if you can see back there, that allows us room to move this bracket in and out if it needs to be able to move that way. If we didn't cut it, we might be pushed too far over, and that could cause it to bind up. So that just gives us the room to move wherever we need this to move to. So again, we're just going to start a couple screws in the back loosely. Unclamp our glide, our drawer bracket glide. Now, the good thing about these is not only do they position the drawer glide in the right place, but if we flip it around, it's actually going to help us hold our drawer box also. So we're going to reposition this, clamp that there, and there's a pair of them. So we're going to put this up on this face. Use a second clamp. Clamp that in there. Pull our drawer slides out. We're going to take our drawer box. Reinstall our 2 slides. We just need to get them in until they click. Just like that. So now we can set our drawer box right on those brackets. They're going to hold the box for us. We can bring our slide out to where we need it to be, and it'll hold it in place while we set the screws. screwing it down, you want to make sure you keep, that the box isn't lifted up off of here. So just make sure that you keep just a little bit of pressure down so that it doesn't lift up. So now that the box is mounted, we can undo the clamps here. Pull this out. This one out. And the drawer should go into place just like that. Now, because we have it in there loosely, what I'm doing is letting the drawer box itself kind of determine the placement of those brackets. Because if we tighten those screws too much, we don't know if we're exactly in the right place. So you can see they're still kind of loose. So we push the drawer all the way back, and then they'll be in the right spot. That's kind of where the drawer wants to be. So we'll take this and we'll screw these down. We'll screw those down tight. Same thing on this side. We'll pull the drawer box out a little bit. You can see that side is still a little bit loose. So we'll set the drawer back just a little bit. Tighten the screw from below. Just like that. So now it's tight. Pull this out. We can tighten the screws the rest of the way. Just like that. Now after you get everything all set, whatever screw openings or screw holes you have left, go ahead and put a screw in there just to make sure it's as strong as possible. And pull it out. This is a full extension drawer slide, so the drawer comes all the way out of the cabinet box. It doesn't stop like 3/4 of the way out. And then when you push it back in, you'll see that soft close mechanism pull that drawer back into its spot. So thanks for watching. Hopefully that was informative. A lot of times you're going to run into issues with cabinets that are either not square, either constructed in place, old, sagging drawers, sagging doors, and you might have to be creative in the way that you go to attach your drawer slides. You're not always going to find a perfectly square, perfectly made cabinet for you to work on. So hopefully this gave you some tips, and we'll see you in the next video.